Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. It's my favorite time of year. It's NFL draft time, and you know that means we have to break it all down. Now, I know a lot of you are expecting my mock drafts. The reason I've been holding off on them is because while I usually do them around this time, there's a big bugaboo in the NFL right now, and that's Aaron Rodgers. And seeing where that trade goes clearly impacts the draft. Now, I personally don't believe that the New York Jets will give up the 13th pick in the draft. But depending on how that all goes, it's going to have a huge ripple effect. But I promise you, my first mock draft for both the New York Jets and the NFL is coming soon. But in the meantime, I thought we'd change gears a little bit and focus on the quarterbacks. And look, if you want me to, please let me know in the comments. I was planning on doing a breakdown of the second tier quarterbacks that I could really see going days 2 and early day 3 and the impact of that. And for those of you saying, well, that seems a little bit much, don't forget Jalen Hurts, second round pick. I think there's a couple quarterbacks in this draft class that maybe not excite people to be first round picks, but could be potential sleepers later on in the NFL draft. So we have a big four this year. We have a top four in terms of quarterbacks. And now it's gotten even more interesting with the Panthers jumping up from 9 to number 1. And I was saying to anyone who would hear it before that I thought the Panthers would up with the number 1 pick. People are like, why? That's crazy. They're not going to go all the way up to 1 from 9. But I said two reasons. Number one, Frank Reich wasn't taking that job unless he got assurances he was getting the number 1 pick, and they got it. The second thing, too, is the Panthers had something for the Bears that a lot of the other teams trying to trade up didn't have, and that's proven NFL players that the Bears would want. Because as much as the Bears want picks and need picks, they also need some NFL veterans. You can't just go out there with a team full of rookies, and they were ended up doing that. So I give them a lot of credit. I give the Bears a lot of credit. I think they got a great haul. But now you look, is there a chance we could see all four of these quarterbacks go in the top 4 picks? And it might not be crazy. You know, Houston's going to take a quarterback. Arizona's the wild card at 3. I would expect that they trade out of 3 and a team tries to jump Indy at 4 who wants to take a quarterback. But you also have some dark horses in the draft that could maybe think about a quarterback. Denver and the Rams at 5 and 6. Not the biggest need, but could look at it. The Raiders at 7 could look at it. The Falcons at 8. It's a possibility. You have a couple teams in that mix that might get a little desperate, might get a little aggressive, trade up to Arizona at 3. But let us talk today about the quarterbacks in question, because I think that this is a fascinating quarterback draft class. And let's start off at the top. Let us start off with Bryce Young. Now, Young to me is a very intriguing prospect. And when I'm looking at these prospects, I'm also going to give you certain teams in the top 10 that I think that they'd be a great fit for and why. Now, Bryce Young, if we were to not look at the physical tape, would probably be easily the number 1 pick in this draft because of his ability to make plays, his ability to make the off schedule. And you can just tell he has this it factor about him. And look, he's got the best accuracy in this draft. Like, there's no question that this guy has the best accuracy. He looks like the most pro-ready, probably, quarterback in this entire draft. It all looks great. But there's a couple problems with Bryce Young. The biggest is his size, 5'10", 204 pounds. He would be the lightest quarterback selected in the first round since the 2006 draft. And if you look at the track record for smaller quarterback, it tends to lean to the negative direction as opposed to the positive direction. For as much as I keep hearing, well, you know, Drew Brees has proven that he can stay healthy. As much as Russell Wilson has been great, there's also been Kyler Murray, Tua. There's been so many examples, Baker Mayfield, of smaller quarterbacks not being able to be successful in the NFL. And especially now with an additional regular season game. It's a marathon in the NFL, 17 games. These small quarterbacks have to hold up. And Bryce Young is another player, Alabama, behind unbelievable offensive line with unbelievable weapons, was still getting hurt. And this might not be a fair comp. But when you go into these meetings, the owners want comps. They want to know, who does the player look like? And unfortunately, I think he is a better version of Tua. I think he's more accurate and a better athlete than Tua, but in terms of similar builds, in terms of similar size, built like Tua. But that lies the rub. Because if we look at Tua's been getting constantly hurt in the NFL. Kyler Murray getting hurt in the NFL. And if you are a team taking a quarterback in the top 10, this has to be incredibly alarming. Because if you cannot stay healthy at the college level, and again, I don't think Young's had the injury extent that Tua had in college, but there is a troubling track record here of someone with durability issues. And in the NFL now playing 17 games, and you saw it last year, we had a record number of quarterbacks playing. It's not good. You want a quarterback that can survive the hits and survive an entire season. And right now, Bryce Young, that's one of the big knocks in him. And I could see him going a variable ways. If he gets back to the team I'm going to mention, I think you could see a similar drop, because I just feel that owners and GMs are going to be scared, despite the throwing talent that Bryce Young clearly has, is the durability. That this is someone that, when he's on the field, is incredible and is brilliant. Like Tua last year. When Tua was healthy, was brilliant. But when he wasn't healthy, killed the team. Now, could this all change? Like, I just don't see him being the number one pick right now. I just don't see Panthers giving up those assets. But I could see him going high. And looking at the draft order, there's one team that I think is a great fit for Young and that I think would like Young. That team in question would be the Houston Texans. And the reason why I think the Texans would really like Bryce Young is because he fits what they want to do. Their new head coach is DeMeco Ryans. They're going to run that San Francisco similar style West Coast system. They need someone that's highly accurate, can get the ball out quick, and get it out efficiently. And that's what Bryce Young's strengths are. The other thing I feel like with Bryce Young is, when you look at the Texans, you look at DeMeco Ryans. With DeMeco Ryans, I believe that you have a defensive-oriented head coach. Now, why is that important? Well, defensive coaches tend to want quarterbacks that are not going to turn over the football. And you look at some of the guys in this draft, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis. Now, Stroud's been good with the turnovers, but it's clear Bryce Young's the best at not turning the football over. For me, the Texans, it seems like a great match. You have someone that can come in and start day one. You have someone that could fit the system that they want to run. And more importantly, it's someone that, as a defensive coach and DeMeco Ryans, he gets a quarterback that's not going to want to turn the football over and give it to the other team. The question is, if the Texans pass on him, like let's say C.J. Stroud's the pick, which could also very well be in play. Indianapolis, I think, could be a potential spot just because of the way the AFC South is. But I don't see a team like a Seattle, a Detroit getting overly excited, because I do think there's a limited ceiling with Young. A team I would keep an eye out for if he drops past Houston could be the Raiders at 7. I think it'd be tough for him to get all the way to 7. But when you look at McDaniels, you look at the injury history of Garoppolo, you look at a similar system that I was just talking about, I think that the Raiders could be a good fit as well. So that was my thoughts on Bryce Young. Let us get to one of the other quarterbacks in this upcoming draft, and that would be C.J. Stroud. Stroud has the best looking ball in the class. Like, if you looked at best thrower, like best looking thrower, C.J. Stroud has that. And I love the rhythm. He gets into a good rhythm. He's got the best ball, the most catchable ball. Now, I feel if you had to ask me today, who is the safest pick in this draft in terms of quarterback, of who will be successful at this next level, I think it's Stroud. Now, some of the knocks on Stroud, I think, are, despite the great athleticism, is someone that doesn't like to run a lot, doesn't extend plays as much as I'd like to see. And the other problem you run into with Stroud is a bit of the problem we were just discussing, which is when you have such great receivers and great playmakers getting open on the Ohio State team, how much of it is you and how much of it is the great team? I mean, when you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's probably the best receiver prospect we've seen in the last 5 years as your number one. And I do think the playoffs help Stroud's draft stock a lot. I do really believe that. I mean, he could be in contention for the number one pick by far. Big, strong, can get the football out, throws a great ball. But the thing you look at with the Ohio State quarterbacks and some of these guys that play at the top 5 programs, and why we've seen those struggle to transition to the NFL is they are playing with a superior team against inferior teams 10 out of the 12 regular season games. The NFL, it's a lot closer. The NFL, as a quarterback, you have a lot tighter windows. You're not going to have that separation that you're getting in college, and that could be a big adjustment. But I will say that the most ready to go quarterbacks, there's two. I think that if you wanted to start two quarterbacks week one, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, the two quarterbacks in this draft class, you could start week one. And CJ Stroud could go a bunch of places. I think a lot of people will love him. I could see him going all the way to Carolina. I could see him going to Houston. I could see him going to any of these teams potentially and being a very good quarterback. Now, I do think he might be limited as opposed to getting like a top 10 quarterback talent. I think at the end of the day, he's probably kind of like a higher end Kirk Cousins or a higher end Derek Carr, where I think he's just outside the top 10 of quarterbacks, but still a really good quarterback and still a quarterback that's going to help your team. And really, to me, he's the safest quarterback pick in the NFL. Which leads us to two prospects that will be a little bit polarizing depending on who you ask, and two prospects that are very intriguing. And guys, if you have any questions about this, if you want to put your analysis or your breakdowns, please let me know. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comments below after the video, and we would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your opinions as well. You guys help make this channel. And again, I promise you, more mock draft and NFL content is on the way. I guarantee you we will have some good stuff coming down the pike. So make sure you check that out. Really want to see you guys here. And again, if you want to reach out in the comments, please let us know. Would love to hear from you in this live stream and be able to hear from you because you guys help make this content what it is. So let's get to the next quarterbacks. We will have one of an intriguing prospect. That's Will Levis. Now, if I was going off pizza taste, because he does have the best taste in pizza in the country, he'd be the number one pick. But unfortunately, we can't go off of that. Will Levis is a prospect that I think you need to sit for a while, despite the age. He's 24 years old. Now, a lot of people will look at the knocks on Will. They'll look on the age being 24. They'll look at the accuracy issues and the consistency issues at Kentucky as an issue. But here's the thing. If you are picking in the top 10, you are looking for potential. Levis is a true wild card where if you can maximize his potential, I think he can be a great quarterback. He's got an unbelievable arm. Set the combine record at 59 miles an hour. That's even harder than Patrick Mahomes, who was at 55. Now, the biggest thing for him is I want to see him process information better and going through the progressions. And look, it's tough. When you go to Kentucky, I think you were looking at a school that didn't really have a great offense in place. And unlike a lot of these other schools, he doesn't have the playmakers. When you look at the other top 3 quarterbacks and the talent that they had around him, look, Kentucky still has talent, but I don't think they have nearly the talent at the skill positions as some of these other teams did. And because of that, I think that Levis gets a little bit of a raw deal. I think he has to work with lesser talent, but in some ways that's a good thing making the transition to the NFL because you have to throw in the tighter windows. You have to adjust to people not being wide open. So I really like Levis. Now, the big thing is I think he has to sit because you need to work on the mechanics. You need to work on the progressions. And for me, I don't think he'll be a top 2 or 3 pick, but interesting places for him to go could be in the middle of that top 10. Because you look at a quarterback, what we would like, big, strong, athletic. I mean, 6'4", 230 pounds. I mean, this guy is what you look for in terms of a build of a quarterback. And when I look at the top 10, could a team like Seattle or Detroit be in play? Because as much as Seattle likes Geno Smith, they basically gave him a front-loaded one-year deal. Could Seattle be looking at this and going, look, we got multiple picks. We are in a division now where San Francisco has a couple different quarterbacks they're not sure about. Kyler Murray is banged up, and Arizona's locked into that. And Matthew Stafford's getting hurt, and the Rams are blowing it up. Could this be a great opportunity for the Seahawks to get ahead of the curve and get a franchise potential talent quarterback to develop behind Geno Smith? The other thing, too, is this is the Broncos pick that they have. They're going to be a good football team. They're not going to get this close to the top 10 again. And if I am the Seahawks, I am seriously considering bringing in someone to sit behind Geno for a year, someone that's got all the tools to be a great quarterback, and let him sit and develop. Now, do I worry about Seattle in terms of developing a quarterback? Because I love Pete Carroll, but maybe not the best offensive mind. Yeah. Other places I could see, basically the 5 through 8, I could see Will Levis being a consideration. I think Detroit could be a good consideration. As much as I love Jared Goff, Detroit similarly has 2 first-round picks. Could they look at this as a situation to go, we can develop him behind Jared Goff? Las Vegas, you have Jimmy G, but Jimmy G, we know, doesn't really stay healthy. Could this be an opportunity for them to develop a quarterback? Atlanta, I like the Taylor Heineke signing. Could he be a bridge to get to Will Levis? And if you're looking at that division now, you have Derek Carr twice a year. You're going to have the Panthers making the first selection in this draft. You need to be thinking long-term about your quarterback position. And maybe there's even a dark horse if Levis falls. Like, could Tennessee jump into the top 10? Maybe grab a quarterback. I mean, are they willing to admit that they're ready to move off Malik Willis? It doesn't seem like they're fully confident in. This, to me, is a quarterback that I know the age, and when you use the term develop a 24-year-old quarterback, a lot of people just roll your eyes. But I like Levis. I love the tools. The thing I worry about is if you're a team that's going to draft him early and play him right away, I think he's going to struggle because he needs to learn progressions. He needs to learn how to go through them and read a defense. And if you throw him right out there, I don't think he'll be ready. And I think some teams might fall in that trap because of the age. But if you're a team that can have him sit for even half a year or a full year, I think that would be beneficial, and he could be a very good quarterback. Now, every year we talk about an X factor in the draft, a polarizing figure, and I do not think that there is one more polarizing than Anthony Richardson. Because on the one hand, we just saw the greatest combine performance of any quarterback. 6'4", 244 pounds, running a 4.40. I mean, this sounds like a video game character you create in Madden almost. But the flip side is this is someone that has had under 400 pass attempts in college. As a general rule of thumb, I like quarterbacks that have had a lot more reps in college because you see the guys that don't get a lot of reps in college that go to the NFL, like a Mark Sanchez, they tend to struggle because those reps are important. Those reps are integral to your development. But on the flip side, the arm, the athleticism, the build, there is a lot to drool about with Anthony Richardson. There is a lot to really like. And to dive a little bit deeper, if you are a coach and you develop this kid correctly, this could be an uber talent in the NFL. And teams that have been aggressive in developing wow talent have seemingly been rewarded. The Kansas City Chiefs took a chance on Patrick Mahomes when they had Alex Smith. You saw the videos from Mahomes' pro day throwing the ball basically like 70 yards from his knees, like the insane talent. But at the same time, we're all like, this talent's insane, but wasn't a great quarterback at Texas Tech. Really struggled with consistency. And now he looks like he could be one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played this game. Josh Allen, similar to Richardson, unbelievable size, unbelievable physical gifts. You worried about the consistency. You worried about the accuracy. But the Bills developed him correctly. And now they have a top 5 quarterback talent. If you are drafting in the top 10, it's a scary place to be because on the one hand, you want a quarterback that you feel good about. You want a quarterback that you feel is safe. Anthony Richardson will not be a safe pick for someone that takes him. It will be a risk. But the reward is arguably greater than any other quarterback in this draft. And there are certain teams that I would rule out for Anthony Richardson. If you draft Anthony Richardson, I don't think it's going to end well. If I'm looking at the top 10 and I am an AFC quarterback, AFC team, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it will work with the Texans, with the defensive coach, and with a team that will likely want to get him out there early. I don't think it's going to work well for even like the Raiders, because I think there's going to be pressure to get him out on the field early, and Jimmy Garoppolo could get hurt. The NFC is at a dearth of quarterbacks right now. They don't have a lot of elite quarterbacks. And this is why I truly believe that he will be the number 1 pick for a couple of reasons. I always say actions speak louder than words. The reason Frank Reich took the Panthers job, like I was mentioning earlier, is there's a quarterback he loves and wants to get. Number 2, the most successful quarterback Frank Reich has had was Carson Wentz, who had unbelievable physical gifts and things that just separate him from the crowd at the time. Number 3, what have the Panthers done this past week? Oh, they signed Andy Dalton to be their quarterback. They signed someone to be a bridge for a young quarterback. Now, I've heard rumors that CJ Stroud is someone they mentioned. I think it's going to come down between Richardson and Stroud for number 1 pick. I really do. But Frank Reich is probably looking at this Richardson kid and going, he has the most upside. I'm a great quarterback coach. I can get the most out of this kid. And if you can maximize this kid's talent for the Panthers, we're not just talking about you having the best and most dominant quarterback in your division. You might have the best quarterback in the NFC in 2 or 3 years. Because I like Jalen Hurts a lot. But outside of Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, I mean, who's really a great long-term option in the NFC? I don't really think there is one. And the Panthers are a team that is aggressive. They are a team that doesn't mind a little bit of risk. They took risks on Sam Darnold. They took a risk on Baker Mayfield. They were banking on the upside. They've been an organization that is going to say, look, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to bet on talent. And if it doesn't work out, we'll move on. They've already moved on for Sam Darnold. They moved on for Baker Mayfield rather quickly. Because of their owner and because of their front office, they're going to be aggressive. They're not going to be worried about making the mistake. There's a lot of teams that are paralyzed about missing and whiffing on the pick. I think that the Panthers are going to look at this and say it might even be a 1-year process where we might not like the growing pains. We might not like the fact that we can't play him for an entire season. But the upside is just too great. And if by some chance CJ Stroud's the number 1 pick, I think there is a bunch of teams that would be lining up. Now, like I said, I don't think Houston would be a good fit. The Colts, I'm not sure would also be a great fit because I do think that there really isn't a bridge guy there at the moment, and there would be pressure to play him. If anything, 5 through 7, those teams would be perfect. Seattle, maybe even Seattle comes up to get him because you're looking at someone that could sit behind Geno and develop. The Lions don't have a ton of needs, have 2 first-round picks, could sit and develop behind Jared Goff. Las Vegas. Las Vegas would be the one AFC team that I could see maybe it working, but I'd also be worried about because I'm not sure if he fits what Josh McDaniels wants to A, do, and B, you're still in the division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. That is tough. But I do think Richardson could easily be one of the biggest quarterbacks in this NFL draft. And look, I really love the way that he plays. I think that he's got an unbelievable arm and he can just be an uber talent. But the thing is, he has to be developed right. For every Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, there's plenty of Jamarcus Russells where you look at the tape, you look at the physical gifts, and you're like, oh my God, this is different. But you have to develop them. You have to. And do they have the right people to develop them? Like, look, if he went to Carolina, I'd be like, yeah, I like Frank Wright a lot. I like what he's done, and I know he's good with working with quarterbacks. But certain teams, if you don't have some plan involved or someone that he can sit behind, I don't think it's going to be a good pick. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us here today on Rich Sports Talk. We will have more great NFL draft content, including some other quarterbacks there in rounds 2 to 3. Mock drafts on the way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Let's try to get more football fans here, and especially as we close in on the 2023 NFL Draft. But I'm your host, Owen Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk. We'll see you next time.